This event is the launch of our Healthy Bees, Healthy Lives campaign, an initiative we have formed alongside an amazing steering committee with members of Homegrown Minneapolis, the University of Minnesota Bee Lab and Bee Squad, members of Minneapolis City Council, fellow beekeepers, educators, and concerned citizens. Let me say, after our Kickstarter campaign, we had no intention of starting something new, but then this happened. To get us started, we are honored to welcome Ward 2 City Council member Cam Gordon. Cam is at the forefront of environmental issues in Minneapolis. He and his aide, Robin Garwood, have been our allies from the beginning and were instrumental in helping us maneuver the legislative demands of our initiative. Cam, would you come up here, please?
Well, thank you so much. I just have to say I am so delighted in... Pardon me?
You look good in antenna.
Oh, thanks. It's a new thing. You should get yours. They're over there at the entryway. But aren't we lucky that somehow Bee's Knees picked Minneapolis to come to? Absolutely incredible. What a team, and how they've educated and enlightened so many of us. And I have to say, a few years ago, it was actually illegal to keep bees in the city of Minneapolis. We didn't let people do that. And I think that Bee's Knees, people like this and people like all of you have really helped Minneapolis get enlightened and move forward in the last 5 or 10 years. We also didn't allow commercial growing of food in the city of Minneapolis either, and we do now. And it's fantastic. And we've actually got beehives, thanks in part to Bee's Knees, and on the green roof on City Hall now. And people are starting to get it. And this fits in so nicely with the entire Homegrown Minneapolis effort that we're doing, and we've really come a long way. Now Minneapolis not only allows commercial growing, allows bees, but it also has a food council that's trying to help steer the ship and figure out what the policies should be and how can we do more to promote local foods and healthy foods in our city. And one of the things we're figuring out is we won't have good healthy food if we don't have good healthy bees. And there is a connection between healthy bees and healthy food and of course the healthy lives. And we have to start understanding that connection better. And it's frustrating to think when we're making progress and we're moving forward in these ways that something like a legal use of pesticides can kill so many bees. And it's especially frustrating when you're in government and you're elected to city council and you think you should be able to make some changes to these rules and this is in fitting with our policies and everything, and then your head smacks right up against a wall called the state government that says, sorry, but cities can't have these decisions. They can't start regulating pesticides. That's a state issue. And that's one of the key things that we need to change by working together, is to get some local control over some of these decisions. We actually also need to figure out how can we get more information about when these applications are taking place, because that's information that we don't get either. And it's going to take us learning more about it and working together and listening tonight to everybody who's speaking. But I also want to give a special shout out to other policymakers, because we're going to need them at the table. And we're really lucky, I think, because we have new elected officials in City Hall that get this issue now. We have a new council and we're moving forward. And I want to make sure to give an acknowledgement to Lisa Bender, who's one of the new council members who's here. Also, there's staff from Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson's board here. 12 council members who were elected. And he, local foods is second nature to him. And also, Alondra Cano has staff here too. And then, so they're learning. We also are fortunate to have two park board commissioners here, John Irwin. Scott Breland. Be working with them and talking to all my colleagues in city government there, but I also think it's really important that after you leave tonight, you're prepared to talk to your friends and neighbors about it. Because a lot of people might think that it's the elected officials and the policymakers who have all the power and control, but I have to tell you, once the constituents, once the people get their mind around something, then we just come following along. and we still have a lot of social norms, a lot of education, a lot of people to win over, as much of us who understand this, and the more you can talk to your friends and neighbors about it, the better. And when you're doing that, your legislators, your lawmakers, and your regulators will get in line behind you and do the right thing. So thank you very much, and I'm going to let Kristy introduce the next speaker.
I'm tempted to bow or curtsy because she really is the queen when it comes to bee research. But instead, I will do my best to honor with words. Dr. Marla Spivak is a distinguished McKnight professor and a MacArthur Genius Award recipient for her work in bee research. She was chosen to do a TED Global Talk in Edinburgh, Scotland last year. She runs one of the top bee labs in the country and has an amazing outreach program called the Bee Squad, focused on bringing back a bee-friendly world by training successful beekeepers. She has been our guide and mentor in beekeeping education and advocacy work at the Bee's Knees, and she is here today to help us understand why this is such a big deal. Marla?
Thank you, and mostly thank you to Kristy and Aaron. They're kind of a force of nature combined. And I remember when Kristy pedaled her bike up into my office the first time I met her, and I was like, what is this? But it's awesome, and I thank you. And I actually have some words written down. We'll see if I actually manage to say them. When I started keeping bees 40 years ago, I never imagined that bees would be in peril. I kind of thought I might be because of the way I was living at the time, but I never thought that bees would be in danger, but we're right at that tipping point. Honeybees are in peril, and our native bees are wild bees also. So this thing that we're doing right now is about all of our bees. We have many species of wild bees that live hidden in the ground or in stems that go unnoticed. And I want you to start noticing them now. Along with our honeybee colonies, all of them are endangered. You've heard about how they're connected to our food. They pollinate all the good food that we eat, the fruits and vegetables. Our coffee that we drink, they contribute to the pollination of that. And we all pay attention to the quality and the purity of our own food. And if you don't, you should be. I think most of us in this room pay attention to our food. It's time to start paying attention to the food that the bees eat. Bees need high quality, very pure flowers. And they need diverse flowers that bloom over the whole growing season, spring to fall, lots of them. And it's our honeybees and our wild bees that need all of these flowers, and they cannot be contaminated with pesticides. You're going to hear next from Catherine Sills and then others a story about what happened in Minneapolis this summer. Somebody inadvertently, just trying to control bugs, pests in their home probably, sprayed enough of a common insecticide, it's called fipronil, that it killed off 3 bee colonies within a mile of each other. That's unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. Now this kind of bee kill has been going on for beekeepers for a very long time. I started as a commercial beekeeper, and on occasion when you work with commercial beekeeping out in agricultural areas, bees get hit with pesticides. Somebody's spraying to protect their crop and the bees get into it and they die. This has been happening for a very long time, but it's time for it to stop.
Yeah.
It is not acceptable to kill bees. A lot of this has to do with just simply people not paying attention. And so tonight, we're going to start paying attention, and your job is to help people pay attention. There were several incidents that's happened this year, and I'm off script, Kristy.
Let's go. Just keep going.
Okay. One of them was in Oregon. Did you hear about what happened in Oregon?
Yes.
Okay, so in a Target parking lot, has nothing to do with Target. It's a commercially landscaped parking lot where they plant trees, And then in these trees, they were linden trees, basswood trees that flower. They wanted to spray them so that the aphids that get into the trees wouldn't poop their honeydew onto the parked cars. And so yeah, so they sprayed dinotefuran, which is a systemic insecticide, on the trees. It was a legal use. This is the thing. That was a legal use of an insecticide. But that insecticide is so persistent that when the flowers finally bloomed, there was still enough of that insecticide in the plant so that over 50,000 bumblebees, one of our native bees, were all killed. And we could see them because they dropped to the parking lot. Now fortunately, not fortunately, but this happened in Portland, Oregon, where a huge conservation society, the Xerxes Society, was present. They were able to go out there, they collected the bees, they were tracked it down. Oregon Department of Agriculture put a ban on those type of insecticides in the city of Portland. This is another thing that happened recently was in an agricultural area, but it was in California where they grow all those almonds. And it turned out that the beekeepers that are near the almond orchards complained that they were not able to raise queen bees when the almonds were in bloom because somebody was spraying something on the almond blossoms while they were in bloom. They thought it was a fungicide, but because California has public pesticide records, a researcher from Ohio State was able to determine, based on these public records, the cause of death of the honeybee queens, because he could track it down to what was being applied. And it turned out it wasn't a fungicide. They were applying tank mixes. In other words, they buy the fungicide, but within it, they mix a bunch of other stuff. Lots of insecticides, insect growth regulators, and when they applied it on the almonds during bloom, it kills off a lot of bees. The point is, we would like to have, in this state, I think it would be awesome if we had more public pesticide records. This has to start on a small scale. If we can do this in Minneapolis, that's a good start. I'm really proud to be here. This room has this particular feeling in it that's very familiar to me. It feels like a buzz. It feels like a beehive in here. And I know that when a beehive gets together and they're healthy and they're coordinated and they want to do something, they're very, very powerful. And they are very efficient and effective. So let's rock, you guys.